Yeah, my name is Joe Walker. I
My
drove,
name's Gene Anderson. My friends call me Oscar P. Shag McNasty.
and Gene and I have been friends a long time.
Yep, we dove together all over the world. Uh, we even dated some of the same girls.
Yeah.
At least they said they were girls. Most of them didn't.
Until they came and said they were pregnant, then we didn't. Then they were your girls.
No. That's some of the other guys we used to know. But we've done sats together.
Yep.
We've done shallow water, deep water,
We've done it
burning,
all together, burning,
blowing up,
blowing things up,
whatever you want to do. If you could do it underwater, we could do it better,
and
faster,
and
deeper, and more often.
and this guy here is the best diver you'll ever interview with.
Uh-oh. And
Yep.
that's the truth.
And he's got all sorts of stories to tell you. And everything we say here is exaggerated and probably untrue.
This is definitely true. Wait a minute. That'd make it alive, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right then. We're there. We're there. No problem. What we're going to talk about that's fun?
Oh, I don't know. What do we talk about?
Mm,
There was one dive I did, and it was actually off Colombia, South America, and it was in 480 feet of water. But it was supposed to be a closed bell dive, but they had a shaped charge. We had to blow the wellhead, and they couldn't use the bell because they were afraid that the primer cord would get wrapped up and they'd lose the charge. So they had me surface dive that without a bell. So they had to make up tables and all that kind of stuff. And we had to make the bomb on the drill ship because they had lost they were supposed to have a shaped charge and they didn't have it. So we made the shaped charge and we used a galvanized drum and put a point on it and used a broomstick as a stopper. And then this thing starts getting hot because it's part A, part B explosion. And on that fine print it says, "Don't put it in a galvanized drum." And I'm going, oh hell. So I go to drop this thing down and blow the wellhead. And everybody on that drill ship is as far away from us as possible. And we go down there, I go down there, I set the charge. And then as I was going up, because it was primer cord, it got wrapped around the guide wire. And I was in a basket, and I tell topside, I'd say, "Hey, I'm doing a little re-rigging here." I tie off my basket to the guide wire and unwrap the primer cord. Did that about 2 times, and we blew the wellhead. But that was a dive I remember because it was one that you weren't supposed to do, and it's one that they decided I was going to do it, and it worked out. You know, you remember the ones that worked out, but it was something else because when I was decompressing, it was beautiful water, and the lights were coming down, and it was in the Bay of Tiburon, the Bay of Sharks, and you could see all this sea life as I was decompressing for way too long a time in the water on that dive. But that was one I remember other than diving with Gene.
we had this guy that worked with us. His name was Ed Spears. He was a Navy diver in the 40s, late 40s. And we was on this ship that had sunk. It killed 39 men on it, VA Fog. And we'd go into these rooms and we'd take all the furniture and put it in the middle of the room, and then we'd line the walls with sandbags, and then we'd take 5-pound sticks of dynamite and line up all the walls and cover them up with the sandbags, making the sandbag a shape charge to cut the wall off because we wanted to collapse the entire ship. Well, when Ed goes into the room, when he opens the door up, you could see where the camera could see, but you couldn't see. And you look right in front of him, and here's these 2 feet hanging from the ceiling about 3 foot off the floor, because this guy's up with his back against the ceiling. And Ed goes in there, and he moving. You can hear him. He's laid the camera down. You can hear moving around in the room and all this. And he finally gets back over there, and he picks the camera up, and you look, and here's these 2 feet. And I asked him, I said, Ed, is there 2 people in that room? He said, no, there's only one. I said, what happened to his shoes? He says, they were my size and they were brand new.
Hey, Norm, come in here and do an interview.
We did a shot job one time. We were shooting a conductor off. It was a standalone conductor. They'd cut it off about 50 foot off bottom. And we had to go down and shoot it off, shoot a hole through it. Then we would put a charge in it, and then we'd shoot it off because it was a multi-layer concrete charge. You couldn't shoot it from the outside. You had to shoot it inside out. Well, everything went according to plan. We shot a hole. I made a shape charge out of funnels and shot a hole through that deal about 4-inch diameter. And then we go down and load this up with explosives, and we're going to shoot it. So we got a cable hooked on this boat. It's a 180-foot workboat. And they had it on an anchor spread deal, and then we'd set the charge, then we'd pull away, and then we'd shoot the charge. All sounds real good on it. Pretty simple. All except for one small detail. We shot that charge, and there was a gas pocket down there, and it started coming up in the water. And the next thing you know, all the water around the boat, for about as far as you can see, was white bubbles. It was gas. Well, boats don't float in water that's full of gas. So that workboat started down, and when the ass end started underwater, I got on the pointed end. It didn't take me long to get to the pointed end. I'm getting ready to get off here, you know what I'm talking about? And it went all the way to the stacks underwater before them bubbles quit enough that it popped back to the surface. This ain't no shit. This is a once upon a time.
This is a true story. We were diving off of Mexico, and some of these guys were on this job, and we're in a bar. It's called the El Pinar Bar, and these ladies get really upset. Next thing is the federales are coming out with guns, and they're starting to they're starting to let the guns off, and Jim, I walk up to Jim. And he's the smoking 45 is right pointed at his head. I reach in my back pocket, and I had a diplomatic passport because I had one of those for a long time. And I slapped the federale on the head. I said, "Diplomatico, diplomatico." That guy looked at me, dropped the gun, and I said, "Let's get the hell out of here." That's a diving story.
Down in Rio de Janeiro. They told me, I don't know anything about it, but they said hookers were $6 a day, but then you didn't have to pay them if you didn't like them. Anyway, my brother comes in the room and he's got a 1/2-inch nylon rope, and I'm going, what in the hell? And he says, I've always wanted a string of whores. And he pulled that rope in, he had 6 on that rope when he got in the room with him. Now that's a true story.
The story I got to tell you about a deep sea diver is we started together when we were 17 years old, and we've been in just about a whole bunch of countries, and we've been kicked out of a few.
Oh yeah.
We've been kicked out of a few, but it wasn't because of what we did. It's because it's the way they didn't want us to do things. But I can tell you, this man and me have had a life in the diving industry that you couldn't ask for a better way of life. And we've told so many different diving stories that, it just goes on and on and on. And some of them you can't tell. But it was an industry that I loved. All the other divers out here loves. Talk better, louder. Oh, yeah, there you go. Can you hear me there, Walker?
We was in a bell one time in a guy named Clyde Hargis, and we was supposed to put these airbags on this pipeline about 300 foot of water. And it was supposed to float this pipeline. Well, it didn't float it, and the engineer assured us them airbags wasn't enough to pick it up, so they're going to move the barge so we get further down the pipeline to put on some more airbags to pick up this pipeline. So we're sitting in the bell, hot water suits down around our waist, hats hanging on the wall. They're moving the barge, and all of a sudden we got caught in that pipeline that bag wasn't supposed to pick up. It picked it up, it caught in us, and it turned the bell upside down and spit us out. We ain't got on nothing but a smile. You ever tried to swim in a hot water suit? I can tell you right now, I can see that bell is getting smaller going that way. It's leaving the way with the barge. I finally get back to the bell, and that damn Clyde Hargis big ass, he ain't getting in that bell near fast enough. Well, I helped him get in that bell. But the sad thing about it was we got in the bell, it's full of water.